Hello and welcome back. I'm the Heir of Carthage coming to you from Salty Studios, and yes, today I have another Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer battle for you. This time again, it's going to be coming from our good friend Stormrunner, who has submitted a lot of replays to me in the past, and one recently where we got to see Archaon in action. Now, some of you may be saying to yourselves, Heir, Archaon's great, and sure, he's the Ever-Chosen, but where's the fashion? Where is the clothing that just says that someone is magnificent, alright? So you all may know what's coming now. Yes, you got to see Archaon, but Heir, how about some Sigvald action if we're going to be talking about Chaos? Well, I have got the ticket for you, and Sigvald action is inbound, so prepare yourself for Magnificence. Yes, Stormrunner is now going to be leading Sigvald the Magnificent, and you can see his army here. It's going to be Marauders, Forsaken, one unit of Chosen, some Knights with Lances, and we're going to have a Metal Sorcerer this time supporting the Knights with Lances. And that's an interesting pick, and I'll tell you why here in just a moment, as well as a couple of Marauder Horsemen and those Poison Warhounds. When we go over and take a look at the Empire army, it's going to be led by none other than the Emperor Karl Franz, who has summoned his Elector Counts to join him in battle here. And he's going to have Sigmar's Sons up front. There are 2 units of Great Swords for a little bit of AP and slightly better infantry. We're going to see some Spearmen, 4 of them in total. We're going to have the Silver Bullets in the background, along with another handgunner who are meant to deal armor-piercing, but also effectively anti-large. And then we're going to see a unit of Reiksguard and a Knights of the Blazing Sun, and a Demigryph Knight with Halberd. Now, interesting enough, as this battle opens up, we're going to see the Empire player move Karl to help face the threat of the Knights with Lances and the Metal Sorcerer. In some ways, this makes sense. Karl would do a lot of damage to those cavalrymen. However, I feel like this is a mistake, and we'll see how it plays out. And the reason why I say I feel like it's a mistake is that one of Karl's biggest abilities is his fear and terror. And Marauders and Forsaken not as much because they have Frenzy, but if their leadership dropped low enough, they would be. But first, Marauders are very susceptible to fear and terror. And you have these cavalry way out here. They are making a wide flanking overture, and so I'm surprised to not see Karl just dive bomb one of these units and get it completely out of the way early and uncontested. It's not like Sigvald can suddenly fly over here and some type of flying attack, or he can just sit over here and shoot Hadoukens at him all day or something like from Street Fighter. So that is one of Sigvald's downside, is that he's slow. And so I'm interested to see what happens here with Karl deciding to go face the flank rather than to help chew up the Chaos front line, which honestly only has two tanky units, because one of them is Magnificent and the other one is Chosen. So we're going to see the Marauder Horsemen, and I like this. There's going to be a threat on both flanks. Both flanks from Chaos, although the threat on this flank is weaker. It's going to get charged on the hoof by this Reiksguard, so that Warhound is going to go down. But those Marauder Horsemen should be able to deal some nice damage with their Javelins. We're going to see the Silver Bullets targeting the Chosen. This is an excellent target for them, and it is exposed to these flank shots. However, the Silver Bullet starts to reposition for some reason. Rather than continuing to shoot here, they may be worried about this flank where Karl has really kind of gotten in over his head. The Chaos Knights with Lances were supported by the Metal Sorcerer, who basically ripped half of the armor off the Demigryph Knights, and the Knights with Lances just crushed through them, and that's despite Karl's presence there. But see, look at that fear and terror. I told you about it, how important it was. He just terrified one of the Knights with Lances. Imagine what Karl would be doing in the middle of that infantry fight. Even the Chosen are susceptible to terror. Now, we did see the handguns get repositioned. They are indeed shooting the Chosen. But the Silver Bullets, who were taking their time to reposition and not shoot at the Chosen, are now going to be caught and decimated by Knights with Lances and the Metal Sorcerer, and that's going to be followed up where from the other flank, the Marauder Horsemasters are now free. You can see a Forsaken chewed through its spear adversaries and is now fighting a Reiksguard over here. Won't do well against the Reiksguard. It should hold for a while. So the Empire's in a bit of trouble here. This Metal Sorcerer is going to very nicely support these cavalry by being able to tear armor off of enemy units, and losing all that armor makes them extremely susceptible to damage from the Knights with Lances, and also from the Marauder Horsemen. Remember that the Marauder Horsemen's missiles do not cause AP damage. I mean, they can certainly, do damage to an armored unit over time, but they don't specifically cause it. And although the Empire actually did a pretty good job still, all told, in controlling most of the Chaos Infantry, the Chaos Infantry was fairly weak. But I feel like, again, this may have been better had Karl helped wipe out the Chaos Infantry earlier, and then you had even more units left to come and help with the support against these heavy knights with lances. It would have been interesting to see a little more support against that flank. The knights with the Demigryph knights with halberds. I don't know what happened to the the Knights of the Blazing Sun. They must have gotten wrecked early too. I didn't catch that one, so I'll have to look at their stats after it's over. But the Empire had 3 heavy cavalry units to only 2 from the Chaos, and so Chaos has been pretty efficient so far with their knights. You can see that they are doing quite well. Now, that leaves Sigvald here. Now, this is not Archaon the Everchosen, right? Sigvald is he's a duelist, so that means he's going to have very good attack, very solid melee defense. He also can heal, which is going to make him pretty tanky. He's 110 armor, and he's got a silver shield as well. And not to mention, he just looks fabulous while he's doing it. Look at that. You know, he's fighting and getting bloody, but his cape is still clean. You know, he can't get his cape dirty. He is magnificent. These great swords will chunk some damage out of armored targets, but Sigvald really does decently in a fight like this. He's going to be alright. It's going to take away some of his hit points, but he'll tank fairly well. The Metal Sorcerer is going to have to watch out because Karl's around. And again, there are some handgunners left for the Empire too here. That could potentially spell disaster for Chaos if those handgunners are able to stay alive and kill the cavalry of Chaos, because if that's the case, then Chaos is going to truly be fighting an uphill battle because they will not have the speed to potentially chase down handgunners. So you can see these Knights with Lances pulling in that direction as if they want to go charge the handguns, but they don't quite make it initially. We'll see whether they do here. The Jade Wizard is still around as well, and those guns are getting some nice shots here. However, the Knights with Lances are going to connect with the handgunners. There's a Spearman nearby that wasn't able to prevent the charge. We're going to see a heal dropped in here, trying to keep those handgunners alive. That's probably a pretty good idea. And these Marauder Horsemen are making their presence felt, even for being a light cavalry unit. There's a few Forsaken. The Chosen with great weapons has come back from routing, and there's a couple more Marauders back here that may also potentially come back from routing. There is another Knight with Lances here. Only 6 units left. The Knights of the Blazing Sun have a few units left. There are some great swords, spears, Karl Franz, and the Jade Wizard. Sigvald, though, manages to connect with the Jade Wizard, and I know he doesn't have AP damage, but Sigvald's no slouch in melee. Yeah, he's not dedicated AP, but he's going to hit pretty hard against especially a Jade Wizard that doesn't have the armor to protect it. But even Karl here, who's whipping out Galmaraz, Sigvald's just a small target. It's harder to land these big hits on him than it is against larger targets. And you can see that he's healed off all the damage that he took from those great swords. He's got 79 kills, and that number is going to keep climbing. Now, Karl gets the benefit of being able to use his infantry for support and then dive bomb around elsewhere or dive bomb Sigvald. And quite honestly, if I were Karl, I would be dive bombing Sigvald while I could keep him busy with my infantry, because he's going to be a lot more dangerous if I lose all my infantry and I don't have a way to keep Sigvald busy while I'm cycle charging him. So Karl may want to go ahead and get that cycle charging done, because Sigvald still hasn't had a healing cap show up on his hit point bar. So he's definitely going to want to deal with them. Now, Chaos is out here running their Knights with Lances around, getting rid of some routing units. And they're going to be able to pull some of their units back in. Going to be some heals here coming in for the Empire. That's an Earthblood to help out Karl. Definitely not going to help Sigvald to have Karl being healed. But let's take a look at the combat here. Karl landing some damage on him. But Karl's also taking a ton of damage from Sigvald. Sigvald's being shot at by handguns, and that is definitely doing some damage. But some of those handgun shots are also landing on Karl. And ultimately, Karl took the worst of that engagement there, and he got hit with the Plague of Rust. It's a little bit late, but the Metal Sorcerer was about to be routed again, and so I'm sure that Chaos, under the control of Stormrunner here, he was just trying to get that magic used and hopefully get the most out of it. Unfortunately for him, though, Karl's going to fly off and not come back down into combat with Sigvald. Now, let's watch this. I said this could be the nightmare scenario for Chaos, because they don't have that cavalry, but that shield coming in handy here for Sigvald. He still takes some damage, but definitely handy to have that shield up and be blocking some of those shots, at least. from the handgunners, and one of the Marauder Horsemen does make it back in, and this is going to be basically Chaos's last chance to control these handguns, and the Empire has to keep these handguns alive. Karl got too far away and definitely should have stayed close to the handguns to be able to provide them support. The Marauder Horsemen are able to land a charge. You're going to get a stand your ground here from Karl to try and keep those handgunners in the fight. He does terrify the Marauder Horsemen, and the handgunners are just barely going to survive. And so there goes the Marauder Horseman. The Metal Sorcerer, though, manages to stabilize, so Chaos still has one more tool with enough speed to catch the handgunners. But look at the damage that Karl has taken from Sigvald. Sigvald has put an impressive beating on Karl, but now Sigvald in a bit of trouble here as that handgunner's trying to get him. But look at this, Slippery, an ability that a lot of times I leave behind. It gives you speed, but it also gives you extra melee defense, and then it was combined with the Scroll of Shielding here, which is going to make Sigvald very, very tanky for a short period of time. And he's able to connect with these handguns in melee and manages to rout them. And that means he can turn his attention to Karl. Now, despite having all the extra defense, you can see Karl landed a big hit on him initially, but Karl's going to have no interest in sitting in a prolonged melee here with Sigvald. He's going to want his infantry to tank that, while he tries to cycle charge, and clearly he wants his gunners back in this fight. So interesting play there by Stormrunner. He's using Heroic Killing Blow right now, which is allowing Sigvald to cause even more damage. And we're Karl down here in melee. He'd be in bad shape. We're going to see Karl go over here and try and rally his troops, and he's going to do so. So now we are looking at kind of an in-game fight here, and the Empire is in pretty decent shape. They've got some gunners back. They're cycle charging Karl. Sigvald is taking some damage. Though Sigvald, like I said, he's still a dangerous unit. You can see he's having trouble landing a return strike on Karl there. And Karl got a very nice charge, so the cycle charging may very well hand the Empire a victory here. We'll see. I know some of you will absolutely hate the cycle charging, but that is just how the game works. Look at this. The handgunners shattered. Sigvald didn't have to chase them. That is a devastating blow to the Empire's chances here. However, their chances are not over. Karl gets over here, terrifies the Marauders. There's some great swords left. There's definitely a chance for them to try and kill Sigvald, and this is where Sigvald's low profile, so to speak, obviously not his low fashion profile, but his low profile in terms of not being a large unit. And yes, I just said that Sigvald wasn't large, so I know that will impact his magnificent ego. But in any case, he's going to be charging in here and taking on these great swords. Again, the great swords should cause a little damage. We're going to see more cycle charges from Karl. It does land some good hits. We're going to see Sigvald trying again to get some hits on Karl. Karl's going to continue to cycle as best he can, and then when he can't attack Karl, Sigvald's just going to turn around. He's at his healing cap, so there will be no more healing. Another cycle charge from Karl, though it doesn't cause as much initial damage, but then he lands a big hit. And at that point, he decides to stay in the fight, but then Sigvald lands a big hit. They're both down to under 300 hit points. Karl gets killed by Sigvald with the Heroic Killing Blow activated there at the last moment, and Sigvald with 232 hit points is going to manage to tank out an epic victory here at the last second. Did you all see that one coming? Did you think Sigvald was going to be able to handle the cycle charges at the end? Yeah, that was an impressive victory, an impressive one to be sure. There actually was some pretty decent value out of the Knights of the Blazing Sun. I'm assuming it was maybe supporting the Demigryph Knights in the fight against the Knights with Lances. Or, yeah, the Chaos Knights with Lances. But one way or the other, I didn't get to see that unit in its entirety, so I missed it. But look at Sigvald here, 4,260 damage value. That is really good for Sigvald. I think it's about double what he cost to put on the battlefield, so it's a pretty spectacular performance. Now, you're not going to see all that value on the Metal Sorcerer, but the Metal Sorcerer actually played a huge role in helping the Chaos Knights. Look at this, 2052 on one of the Knights with Lances and 1629 on the other. That is definitely worth it for those Knights with Lances. So that was some excellent play with the Knights with Lances. The Marauder Horsemen, both excellent. Look at one of them over 1,000 and the other is 719. Again, very much worth it for these units as well. The Chosen didn't get to where it needed to be in this battle. Let's go take a look at Karl at 2938. Not bad. Not bad. It's definitely more damage value than it was cost to put him on the battlefield. But he just didn't perform up to the level that Sigvald did. However, we had a decent performance from the the Knights of the Blazing Sun, a solid performance from this handgunner unit. However, the silver bullets were repositioning and didn't finish taking shots at those chosen, and then also weren't really in a position to shoot into the cavalry fight, and so they just did not get the value that they needed in order to win this one. So an epic and, should we say, magnificent performance from Sigvald there. Truly magnificent from one whose cape will never be sullied with the blood and dust of the battlefield or from anything disgusting from his foes. He is Mr. Clean, so to speak, when he goes into battle. And in this case, he did come out, I wouldn't say squeaky clean because he was barely clinging to life, but at least his clothes weren't dirty. You know, that must mean that Sigvald's laundry bill is also magnificently low. What do you all think about Sigvald? How did you like this replay? If you did find yourself enjoying the video today, make sure and go down there and click the like button. It helps out a lot, puts extra interaction into the video, and tells YouTube's stupid algorithm that you enjoy good content and not shorts, which are 8 seconds of stupidity that really belongs on TikTok instead of YouTube. So it's a great way to fight back against idiotic content on YouTube. In any case, hope you all enjoyed this one. I'll be back soon with more. Do appreciate Stormrunner and Anders for helping to give us a very fun replay to watch. And we will, as I said, have more for you. Warhammer 3 is coming up soon next year, so make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you don't miss the action. HeirofCarthage signing out for now.